Have you ever gotten a promotion you worked your ass off for, only to realize a few weeks later that you actually hate your life? Well, that's today's topic. Let's dive in. Welcome to Break Up with Corporate, the podcast for women who want to plan their escape from the 9 to 5 and build a business of their very own. I'm your host, Debbie Mitten, a business mentor at Virtually Debbie, and a recovering corporate survivor after spending 37 years inside the Matrix. All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's just dive right into this. Promotions are a racket. More women are getting promoted right now than ever before, and a lot of them are turning around and quitting within a few months of saying yes. There's actually research backing this up, real numbers, not just my opinion. And today, I want to talk you through why that's happening and what you can do differently before it happens to you. A friend of mine landed a promotion she'd been chasing for about 2 years. She got a bigger team, a fancy new title, and a small bump in pay. And she called me right away because she was so excited about it. 2 weeks later, she called me again, and she sounded like a completely different person. Her calendar was absolutely filled. Every hour from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. was somebody else's meeting. And the actual work, the stuff that she was really good at, the stuff that used to light her up, well, that got pushed to the nights and weekends. She was just tired. What got me is she kept asking what she had done wrong. Like this was somehow her fault. She hadn't done anything wrong. This is just what happens when a company hands you more people, more visibility, and more scope, calls it a promotion without giving you a single extra hour in the day to handle it. Something has to give. And it's usually your sleep, your evenings, your sanity, your quality time with your friends and relatives. And that story is not rare. I hear some version of this constantly. You get the win and you celebrate for a hot minute, and then the math starts to catch up with you. I've watched women go from thrilled to completely wrung out in about 3 weeks flat, and it happens so fast, they don't even clock it as a pattern. They just think, okay, well, this next quarter will calm down, but it never does. Let's actually do the math for a second, because I think that's what's missing from this whole conversation. You get a 5, maybe 8% bump in pay. Now you're working an extra 15 hours on average a week just to keep up. Divide it out with your hourly rate, and that actually goes down pretty significantly. You wake up about 8 months later, you realize you're exhausted and somehow still broke, and you can't quite figure out why. Now, some corporate climbers, they will tell you that taking that short-term hourly pay cut is worth it. The idea behind it is you take a beating for about a year or two just to get that title on your resume so you can leverage it for a bigger payday somewhere else. And sure, people play that game all the time. But let's be real about the hidden cost of that leverage. If that year breaks your health, wrecks your personal relationships, or burns you out so badly that you have nothing left to give, well, that strategic move cost you way more than it paid. And those costs really add up. It's not really the hours on your calendar that disappear. It's all these extra dinners and travel. You miss plans with your family or you cancel on friends. You just got to check one more email real quick. It's carrying somebody else's problems home with you every night, even when you're technically off the clock, but who really is technically off the clock? The real insidious thing is that you look around you and every other manager that got promoted, they're doing the same thing. They're not saying anything, but they're making these sacrifices with their friends and family and their hobbies and their health, and they're just keeping quiet. They're just plugging away. Nobody says anything. This becomes the new culture. And there's actually data where the ADP Research Institute looked at job histories of over 1 million workers, and they found that 29% of people quit within a month of their first promotion. I find that really interesting. You compare that to people who weren't promoted, and only 18% of them left in that same window. Think about that just for a second. Years of working towards the next step, then 30 days later, they're walking out the door. Now, some of those people are quitting because they leveraged that shiny new title and landed a better gig somewhere else immediately. Awesome. But a massive chunk of them quit because the reality of that new role hit them like a freight train. They realized that that trade-off was not worth it at all. Whether they are escaping the misery or leveraging the title to jump ship, the pattern is the same. The promotion didn't make them stay. It pushed them out. I'll put the actual ADP study in the show notes if you want to read it yourself. And get this, that raise doesn't even stick around. There's more survey data from Lending Club and Payments, and that found that close to half the people that are making six figures say they're living paycheck to paycheck, which sounds backwards, right? But six figures, and they're still stretched thin. Why is that? Yes, inflation's real, bills are real. I'm not saying they aren't, but a good part of that leak is just called stress spending. You're not building anything extra with that money that you're getting. You're actually numbing yourself with it. Whether that's maybe Sunday night online shopping sprees or food deliveries because you're too tired to cook, right? We've all done it. It's a cycle. You work harder, you feel worse, you spend to cope. You feel like, I deserve it, I work hard, I'm just going to order out. And then you repeat the whole thing next week. You're not saving any money. The next time you get offered a promotion, just pause. Don't say yes right away because it feels good in the moment. Stop and actually look at the hours it's going to cost you. Look at what it's actually going to take. And then decide. On purpose, once you've factored everything in. So, why do we keep signing up for this? I think it's because corporate conditioning runs really deep. From day one, they teach you to measure your worth by what other people think of you. And you get that little hit of pride when leadership praises you, when you land that big project, when you get that fancy title. Somebody else decides that you matter, and you feel it in your whole body, and that can be addictive. And companies know it too, whether they'd admit that out loud or not. They don't have to pay you more if they can just make you feel chosen, special instead. Now, if you hit this wall, you do have choices. Sometimes the answer is setting ruthless boundaries. But for a lot of women, hitting that promotion wall is the exact moment that the spell breaks. It's when you realize that climbing higher in a broken system isn't going to fix the problem, because the higher you go, the more of yourself you have to give away. So if all this corporate nonsense makes you want to take your ambition and aim it elsewhere, you're not alone. Women are leaving corporate in droves to build something of their own instead of pouring their energy into a system that doesn't value them. So here are 4 things that you can start doing right now while you're still fully employed to get yourself ready to make the escape. First, start putting money aside specifically for your own business. Not your regular savings, a separate stash just for this. You need a cushion so you're not scared the day you finally leave. Second, start quietly pulling back on extra work that nobody's paying you for. Now, I know that sounds terrifying, especially when people around you are so used to you doing everything and going above and beyond. But when you've been the high achiever your whole life, pulling back can feel like risking your job. I totally get it. That's why I stayed in corporate for way too long. I was afraid to put up boundaries. People were used to me going above and beyond. But I say to you, perhaps you could stop raising your hand for every extra thing. Maybe stop volunteering for things. You don't have to make a big announcement like, suddenly I'm going to have good boundaries. You just have to reclaim that extra energy so that you have something left at night and on the weekends to actually build your own thing. Third, don't use anything from your job to build your business. Please do not do that. Don't build anything on company time. Don't use your work laptop, email, Wi-Fi, work files, contacts, anything. Keep it completely separate. This matters because if you mix the two, your employer can come after you legally once you leave. Keep the line clean, and you don't have to worry about any of that. And fourth, start paying close attention to how things are actually run in a corporation where you are. You can learn so much. It's almost like on-the-job training for when you actually become your own CEO. There are so many departments that support your company. Once you have your own business, you become all of these departments. What can you learn from them? Especially the marketing and sales departments. Look, I know what it's like to look at a stable paycheck and think about walking away from it. That's a huge mental shift, and I'm not going to pretend that it's not. I spent months dreaming about leaving, running numbers in my head, going back and forth, telling myself I'd wait maybe just one more year, maybe just one more bonus cycle, one more review. There was always a reason to wait. And looking back, some of the reasons were legitimate, and some of it was just plain fear of the unknown. Until one day, the stress of 37 years in a toxic corporate system just got to be too much to bear, and my body gave out. I ended up in the ER, on FMLA, and eventually I was laid off anyway at 59, completely burned out, and with no backup plan, other than I knew I was never going back to that system. I wish I had been better prepared for this, but I was too busy doing my fucking job. Please don't wait for your body to make that decision for you like mine did. Start taking small steps today to build your own exit ramp. And if you need help, feel free to reach out to me. Well, that's the show for today. Thanks so much for coming by. I appreciate all of you. If you know of any corporate woman who is struggling to get out of corporate, feel free to share this podcast with her. I will catch you guys in the next episode.